Hey everybody, I'm Chuck Waterman with Functional Fly Tying. This is our first video and I'm here to introduce the T3 tying pedestal suite. In the past 40 or so years there have been huge advances in a lot of fly tying tools. Vices have improved, scissors have improved, all sorts of new tools and stuff have come out on the market. But if you take a look at the pedestal, it's remained essentially unchanged. Well, I wanted to change that. I think there's opportunities there to have the pedestal improve your tying arena from an organizational standpoint, from a convenience standpoint, even to the point where it can improve your tying consistency and your productivity. So I spent the last 3 years working on prototypes, and I've created the T3 fly tying pedestal suite, and let's take a look. So here's the T3, and the T3 is actually comprised of 5 components. You've got the base pedestal, the toolbar, the storage center, the salmon and salt, and the flash and floss. Let's go ahead and we'll work our way through, starting with the base pedestal. Now, when I started to design this, I wanted everything to be the best that it could possibly be. So I went ahead and had all of the parts are milled out of bar stock aluminum, and they are type 3 anodized. In addition, you'll see that this is set up for a right-handed tire. We also have, for left-handed tires out there, we have a left-handed configuration. So if you point the vise in the other direction, we have you covered. Now to go over some of the features that we have on here, you've got a hackle gauge, a ruler in both English and metric, an Atlantic salmon hook gauge, and all of those gauges are laser etched directly into the aluminum. There's no decals. You'll never wear them away. They're going to be there for as long as you own the pedestal. Up in the corner, you have 3 ports. One of them is a smaller one for holding a bodkin, and then you have 2 larger ones. For this one here, you can fit the handle of a whip finish tool, for example, or maybe a bobbin. This corner piece holds the toolbar, which we'll get into in just a second. Over here, you've got a bead well, and then here you've got your vise mount. And notice that if you take a look, see how the mounting position is closer to the front? What that does is that gives you a leverage advantage, so that when you are tying in high torque situations, if you're spinning deer hair or working with synthetic materials that sometimes want to spin or roll, you can go ahead and you can apply more thread torque and not worry about the pedestal moving around. It's going to stay stable. This white patch right here gives you a high contrast background. It's also a magnetic sheet, so you can set your hooks and anything else down there that's metal if you don't want it to move. The magnet is strong enough so that you can tilt this thing up at a 45-degree angle and hooks aren't going to come off, but you can still pick up hooks easily with your fingertips. Another nice thing is that the posts for the gauges also work well as a spindle for when you are doing measuring of materials. So let's say, for example, you're tying salmon flies and you need 2-inch segments of tinsel to tie on your tags. All you need to do is just rest the tinsel on there, the spool, pull it out to the appropriate length, and then go ahead and cut things to measure. The remaining 3 ports in the base pedestal are for these storage cups. And you can see that there are 3 of them and 3 ports there. They are milled tightly enough so that these storage cups can be opened up with a single hand. So if you're tying and you need access to a material, you can pop it open real quickly. You don't have to pull the whole thing apart and lose handle on your fly. The storage cups are phenomenally versatile. This is one of the things that I really wanted to have when I went ahead and designed this. So for example, you can fit an entire standard package of dubbing in one of these cups. I also store beads. I store eyes, both weighted and unweighted. I keep tying wax inside a bin. I have it broken down into small pats, and then you can keep them in here. It stays watertight. I store feathers. I put CDC puffs, and I'll put pairs of feathers if I'm tying salmon flies. It helps me organize things in advance. And you can also put hooks in there. Not only trout hooks, but there are larger size containers which can hold hooks up to sometimes 2 or 3/0. The other nice thing is that if you use a travel case for your tying, I'm sure almost everybody is familiar with these tubes that come in most travel cases, and the storage cups that are in here will slide right down in, and that gives you another easy way to store materials as you travel. The next piece I'd like to talk about is the toolbar. And as I mentioned before, in the base pedestal, this back corner port will hold this toolbar, and you'll see up in the top here it has 6 larger holes, and those larger holes will work really well for storing things like scissors or bobbins or other larger diameter tools, whip finishers, etc. But then if you take a look down along the edge, you'll see that there's 8 smaller ports on each side, and those I designed so that when you are tying in a production environment, if you are going to, say for example, tie some beaded nymphs, you want to go ahead and put the beads on first. You can just go ahead and hang the hooks with the eye pointed down, and the beads and everything will stay in place while your tying is in process. It also works really nice as a drying rack if you are putting lacquer on the heads of your flies and you need them to be able to dry in a straight down position, so the lacquer doesn't run in a lopsided manner. Now, I mentioned before that each of these pieces is a component-based part of a component-based system. So when you're choosing which pieces you want, they are connected by 2 steel pins, and then on the back of the pedestal it has 2 holes there these pins mount into. So you can pick and choose not only which components you integrate into your system, but also the order with which they're assembled. There are also some tiers who simply like to take and break off this part of the system and set it off to the side, especially if they are working with bigger flies. If you want everything to stay together, then the pins just go ahead and slide everything together, and now you're back into one contiguous unit. So the next piece I'm going to talk about is this second piece here, and this is called the storage center. So if you like the idea of having storage containers for all of your various types of dubbing, or your beads and your hooks and everything else, which I have to say I've converted to doing that for all of mine, and it works really, really well, then this offers you more storage opportunities. Just a quick example, one of the things I've done is when I put my dubbing into these containers, this is some ice dub, I drilled a 3/8 inch hole in the top, set it right in there, and so now as I'm tying, I can simply go in, reach for the dubbing I want. At any given time, it's right there, it's available to me, and when I pull on it, the container doesn't slide all over the place, it stays right in place. The next piece up is this piece right here, and we call this the salmon and salt. I talked with a couple of tyers who had seen what I did with the storage center, and they said, well, that's great, but what about those of us who tie with bigger hooks? And so we created on the same chassis as the storage center. This one has 5 containers rather than 10, and then it has these 2 expanded hook wells. Each of them has a magnetic piece in the base. So if you put your hooks in there, it will hold them securely, but also allows you to work with larger quantities of saltwater hooks without them moving about. Finally, the last piece is what we call the flash and floss. And the name for that is relatively straightforward. If you have materials that you want to keep on a spool, for example, tinsels or floss or things like that, you can go ahead and that rod will fit inside of virtually any spool of tinsel or floss. And then if you are a saltwater tyer and you like to keep your hanks of crystal flash or other materials available, then you can hang them right over the bar and everything stays right handy at your fingertips. A side benefit to this, as we were working on the prototype process, was we realized that, let's face it, a lot of people like to watch YouTubes as they're tying. And so what we did was we set the flash and floss, propped it back at such an angle where you can go ahead and you can brace a tablet, and now you can either video or you can watch YouTubes or videos of for tying, and it makes your life a whole lot easier rather than trying to crick your neck off to the side and watch something that's off at an angle. Finally, with regard to the pedestal and the types of vices it'll hold, anything with a standard 3/8 inch stem will fit very easily. This is an HMH pedestal right there, or vise right there. You can see that fits in very easily, and it will snug right up. Also, for tyers who like the Cottarelli T-Rex, that vise also sits in there very snugly, and then once you snug that up, it maintains its position very, very well. So I have yet, other than the Nor vise, I have yet to find a vise that does not fit in here comfortably. There may be one, but I haven't encountered it yet. And so the final piece that I will talk about is for a travel perspective. We've made this as simple as possible to travel with, even though it can be used for a permanent home setup or a travel setup. But we do have a embroidered carrying case, and so in order to use the case, all we have to do is we'll take out the toolbar, and then for the flash and floss, the rod on that actually slides out, and then these two pieces can sit right together. The main components of the suite sit right into the main compartment perfectly. And then there are 3 zippered containers, one mesh one here, a second container back here, and then one on the outside. So for me, I like to go ahead and I'll put the flash and floss there. I'll put the toolbar in the second one up, and then on the outside I'll go ahead and take my vise and load it in there, and I still have plenty of room down in here to tuck in enough materials for an evening tying night or for a weekend of travel to tie, you know, a few select patterns. But for unless you're going off on a long tying expedition, it's a great way to tote your entire tying gear with you. So I think that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I hope this maybe sparks some interest in the T3. If you are interested, our email address is chuck@functionalfly.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.